Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to our YouTube channel for video number 2.
We are so excited that you're here with us, and we got such an exciting topic that we want to cover today. This week we are celebrating our 5-year anniversary, and it's so crazy. We've been married for
5 years, it's crazy.
So today we want to touch on 5 things that we've learned in the last 5 years of our marriage. So we don't want to waste any time, and we want to jump right in.
Come on.
So point number 1.
Point number 1 is this, is that Jesus has to be the center of your relationship.
Yes, and it's so true. Marriage is a million times better when you have Christ as the foundation, Christ as the center, and Christ as the focus of your marriage.
That's right on. I think one thing that I've learned in 5 years of marriage, and even in my relationship with God personally for like 10 years now, I've learned that what you worship, you become like, right? And so if you worship money, if you worship fame, you're gonna start to desire and ache for these things. It's gonna be something that's gonna be like your main focus. And what I've realized is that when you worship God, when you put Jesus as the center of your life, you become like Him.
Yeah.
And so as Jesus as the center of our marriage, I've seen the fruit of that being like we become like God.
Yeah.
We become like His nature, like His goodness, like His love, and we express that in the midst of our marriage. You know, if I want to treat you better, if I want to love you well, Lily, it's in my best interest to get to know Him who is love so that I can love you effectively.
It's so true. When the Holy Spirit fills you, then you start living out, demonstrating the fruit of the Spirit and the giftings of the Spirit, which definitely makes the relationship so much better and so much more fruitful.
Yep, 100%. And another thing that I've noticed in this is that when you have Jesus as the center of your relationship, you have purpose.
Yes.
You have a destiny, you have a calling, you have something to go after together. When you get married, a lot of people think that you're throwing in the towel, that it's like game over. But it's not true. If Jesus is the center of your relationship, if Jesus is the center of your marriage, He's going to give you an amazing destiny and calling to achieve together. And now, because there's not just one, there's 2 of you, you can achieve so much more. Having Jesus as the center of your relationship, oh man, it gives you a purpose and a destiny.
Yes, and then lastly, He is just the ultimate Father.
Yeah.
He's our Father. So there's been moments when we would even get in an upset, and then we would walk away and we'd spend time with the Lord, and the Lord would just gently correct us. He would speak to me and be like, Lily, what are you doing? Like, put down your ego, go apologize. And I'm like, you're so right, Lord. So I love like having the Lord at the center of your marriage. He's gonna be the one that's gonna bring reconciliation, kind of humble you too in moments to bring peace. Point number 2, the second thing that we've learned in our marriage is the importance of being each other's biggest encouragers. In a world with so much negativity and so much harsh words being thrown, naturally the way we're wired, that we're our own selves' biggest critics, it's so important that we as each other's spouses be each other's biggest encouragement.
Yeah. And like there's been moments where I'll go and preach at church, or I'll go and share at a conference or at another church service, and I'll come off and I'll start to criticize my ability to communicate. Like, man, did I say that effectively? Did I do what God asked me to do? Did God move powerfully? And I would have these thoughts that would come in and just pull myself down. And so to come and present that to Lily, go, hey, I'm actually battling with this right now. And then for you to come in and just speak encouragement. Do you know who you are in God? Do you know what He's called you to?
Yeah.
You're amazing at that, and continue to do it. And so 100%. Number 2 is that be each other's biggest encouragement, because the world doesn't always encourage, but if you have someone that's on the same team, they're going to encourage you to be amazing as you encourage them to be amazing.
Yeah, the Bible says that life and death is in the power of the tongue. So how are we using our words to build each other up or to destroy each other? So this is something that we try to do in our marriage, and over the last 5 years, is to build each other up, to speak encouraging words and life, because we want our marriage to be filled with only life.
God doesn't call you out, God calls you up.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, why did you do that, or accusing them based on something, calling them up and saying, do you remember who you are? Do you remember who God says you are? That you're better than that. You can do this at a greater level.
Yeah, and also just important that my husband hears from me how I feel about him.
Come on.
That I think he's the most attractive, that I think he's the most gifted and the most amazing man. Because then if he's out somewhere and some woman comes up and says, wow, you're really hot, he's gonna be like, hey, I know, my wife tells me this all the time. And I think that's so important, because sometimes like spouses don't hear that from each other. So it's so much easier to fall when someone else notices that about you, because you never get it at home. So make sure you're building your house on life.
And this brings us to number 3. The third thing that we've learned in our 5 years of marriage is to have connection as our highest goal.
Yes, connection is the most important thing in a relationship. No conflict is bigger than connection. No situation should take the place of connection between each other.
One of the best quotes that we've actually ever heard that helped us in our marriage is this: to seek to understand before seeking to be understood. It's so profound, because if I come into a discussion with Lily and I have her best interest in mind and I have her heart as a priority, I'm gonna seek to understand how you're feeling and what's going on in your world before I communicate how I'm feeling. A lot of times people get into miscommunications and upsets in their marriage because they go ahead to share all of how they're feeling and have no interest in hearing about how their spouse is feeling. And so this has changed our life to be in connection, that we would seek connection over everything. Even if that means that we don't go on a trip because we're in disconnection. We will choose connection before we go somewhere, before we leave each other, or before we choose something else. Connection for us in our relationship is our highest goal.
And another thing when it comes to connection is we are a team. It's not me against him, it's not him against me, it's us against whatever comes against us. And that is one of the most important things, because this is it. This is the connection that matters. Another thing to help you stay connected is to realize that you are a team.
Yeah.
We are a team, that it's not me against him or him against I, but it's us against whatever can try to come against us.
Yeah, so true. I remember this practical tool. I don't know where we learned it from, but it was amazing. Is that if you're ever in a conflict or an upset and you guys want to go ahead and work it out together, because as Lily said, it's not about you guys against each other, but it's about you guys on the same team going after the issue and bringing a solution.
Yeah.
And so one of the practical tools that we had a mentor give us, which was amazing, is that when you go out for dinner or you go ahead to discuss maybe a conflict or an issue, instead of sitting opposite each other, which communicates through your body language and even subconsciously that you guys are opposed each other, go ahead and sit next to each other and hold hands. And when you hold hands and you sit next to each other, you can go ahead and look at the problem on the same side and on the same team, which goes ahead and it communicates to you subconsciously that you guys are doing this together and you're going after a solution to the issue that may have presented itself.
Yeah, so true. And even sometimes just having that connection and touch makes you realize, okay, everything's gonna be okay. This is what's important right here. Making sure this is healthy.
So connection is our highest goal when it comes to our relationship. We want to be connected. We want to see eye to eye. We want to be on the same page, because when we're on the same page, nothing can defeat us. Nothing can oppose us. We will conquer the world.
That's right.
If we're connected and on the same team.
And this brings us to number 4. The fourth thing that we have learned over the last 5 years of our marriage is that communication is
Key.
Yes.
I think one of the biggest things when it comes to communication being a key in your relationship is that you would learn how to communicate your needs.
Yeah.
You know, that you don't just expect for your spouse to be a mind reader and know exactly what you're thinking or exactly what you're feeling, but you will go ahead and effectively communicate what you need in that moment. Maybe you just need a hug, maybe you need to go out, maybe you need some space. You know, to be able to communicate that effectively brings so much help and so much support to your marriage.
Yeah, there's so many times that I might be feeling frustrated and he might think that it's because of him, but I recognize that it's actually because of my personal needs. For example, I might be really exhausted or I'm hungry.
Hungry is a good one.
Hungry is a thing. So just being able to quickly communicate my needs of being like, hey babe, I'm just really hungry, I need some food, it's not you. Then he'll know that right now priority is getting this woman fed.
Yes.
So that we can continue on doing whatever we need to do. But also it's the way we communicate. Because I could say oh Jack, you always do this. And right away it's putting this assumption and this almost like a judgment on him that this is what he always does. Where another way I can communicate is, when you do this, it makes me feel like this. So it's oh, my feelings is what's important, not the fact that you are doing this constantly. Because the reality is, no one does everything all the time.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it was awesome because when Lily and I first started to date, we did it long distance for 9 months.
Yes.
And so for us, if we got into an upset or a miscommunication over FaceTime or the phone call, we couldn't go ahead and just look at each other and be like, man, you're so beautiful, you're so gorgeous. Let's just leave that alone. Let's put it on the rug and just move on.
Yeah.
We had to learn how to nut it out. We had to learn how to work it out. And I think that was so vital. We learned how to master communication.
And also, ask good questions. It's so important to have the relationship flourish and grow. And the only way to do that is we keep asking good questions of getting to know each other deeper. Because even after 5 years, I don't think I have all of Jack figured out. I have a lifetime to get to know everything that this man is about. And I'm so excited to get to know him, that it's not like a thing that I'm tired of. Oh, 5 years, I already know Jack, I have nothing to ask him. But no, what is God showing him in this season? What is he experiencing? What are things that he's contending for?
Yeah.
And things like that that can keep the marriage alive and growing.
So this takes us to number 5, our final one, and this one is actually one of my favorite ones.
Yes.
Is learning how to have fun and be adventurous.
Yes, marriage should not be boring. I think the culture that we live in is kind of like, oh, you're getting married? Yikes, your life's over. Like, no way. I could say this now, about to be 5 years married. It is so much fun, and it's so important for you to have fun within your marriage.
100%. I believe that it's so important to go ahead and make room for having fun together. And that might be something that you guys have in common together. Maybe it's traveling. Like, we love to travel.
Yes.
We love to explore the world. And that's one way that we have fun together. We're adventurous.
Yes.
We go to new places. We
So
check
much
out
fun.
new cities. That's what we love to do. And so we set time aside to go ahead and just have fun together. No agenda, but just hanging out and having connection. You know, a lot of times what people will do, especially in relationships and marriage, is they'll go ahead and they'll just get together when they need to accomplish a task. You know, it's so important to have time that is not busy time. It's time where you're like, hey, let's go on an adventure. Let's go and watch that movie. Let's go and play that game. Let's stay at home and play board games.
Or cook at home, just doing something together that brings you to joy. And also remember that you guys are best friends first. That it's not just partners. It's not, you know, like, oh, now my only role is being a mom or a dad. But no, you're best friends first. And best friends have fun. Best friends can talk for hours. Best friends laugh. And because he is your husband, you get to flirt for the rest of your days.
Man, keep flirting in the conversations. Be cheeky, be fun.
Yeah.
You know,
make each other laugh.
Exactly. Go after it, you know. There's no limitations in marriage.
Yes.
Make sure that you love each other well and that you have time together. And guys, that concludes 5 things that we've learned in 5 years of marriage. But we don't want to leave you yet. We want to give you one bonus one.
Yes.
And this one actually is one of my favorite, Lily.
Yes.
It is to invest in your marriage. It's so important to invest in your marriage. If you're investing in yourself, you're investing in your education, you're investing in your kids, you must also be investing in your connection and your relationship with your spouse. 100%. Yes. What does it look like, Lily, to invest in your marriage?
It can look so many different ways. One way is reading books or hanging out with other married couples.
I think it's really important to go ahead and invest in reading, education, in your connection, as we were mentioning before, going on a trip if you can, or
even
just
like some marriage conferences that are happening around.
Yeah, or going for a day away, or just having time to conversate and connect and share your heart.
Yeah.
Even getting around people that have phenomenal marriages, that you can allow them to invest in you and speak wisdom and truth.
And it could also look like making time to go and spend some money at a restaurant or book a hotel once in a while, because you know, we spend so much money on so much different things, but sometimes the thing that gets forgotten is your marriage. So book that hotel once in a while, spend time with your loved one, because what you invest in grows and multiplies.
100%. And I remember this story. We actually were on a trip and we had some friends with us that were newlywed, and we were hanging out, and Lily goes ahead and pulls out her phone and books a hotel for the night. And our friends turn to us, go, wow, you guys just book a hotel like that? Like, why are you doing that? And we responded and said, hey, look, we don't do that often, but when we do, it's because we want to invest in our marriage, and we're willing to put money into our marriage so that we can succeed as a couple. And so I encourage you guys, go ahead and invest in your marriage. That was one of the biggest things that we learned in 5 years, is it's important to always grow and always put wood on the fire.
Yeah, create intentional time, intentional opportunities to connect, especially during busy seasons, you want to make sure there's a time for connection to be reestablished.
100%. Well, guys, we love you. Thank you for tuning into this video. Make sure you go ahead and press the subscribe button,
Yes.
give us a like, and then also go ahead and put a comment below. We'd love to connect and engage with you guys. We love you, and we'll see you next time. Peace.